Shatterline has been in early access for about 2 years, but now some major changes have been made to the game that very few people are talking about. Oh yeah, and they're actually shutting the game down. For now. A lot of what is to come for Shatterline is either very confusing or up in the air, so I did my best to scour the internet for all the information I could find to get an idea of what is going on with this game. So if I missed something in this video or you have information I don't, drop the knowledge in the comments for us. If you don't know what Shatterline is, it has 2 main game modes on offer. A futuristic 6v6 arcade shooter very similar to Black Ops 4 and xdefiant, as well as a team-based extraction mode. So what is happening to Shatterline and why are they making these changes to the game out of nowhere? In an effort to keep the game alive and get access to funding and reach broader audiences, Frag Labs, the development studio behind Shatterline, has partnered with Fairway to reboot the game, or as they're calling it, closing early access to get ready for the full launch. That's a very interesting way to spin it, but why all of a sudden are they making these changes? My guess is that Shatterline has been in a steady decline for quite a long time, mostly due to a lack of marketing and only being available on PC, which has excluded a massive number of potential players. There are very few people who even know about this game, so I do think if they get a marketing budget, they can definitely bring some more awareness to the game, which is desperately needed. But who is Fairway and why did they choose to partner with them? I couldn't find an about page explaining exactly who they are and what they do, but from what I could gather, it seems that essentially they've created all the tools and infrastructure for developers and players to create their own games and NFTs. The idea being that these games will be able to easily create play-to-earn systems and have cosmetics as NFTs for those games, as well as presumably a marketplace for them to be collected and traded on. All of this, of course, running on Web3 and blockchain technology. And that raises another important question. What is an NFT and how will it work in a game? I'm sure by now most people have heard that NFT stands for non-fungible token, which essentially means that it's a digital asset that cannot be copied and faked and is usually only available in limited quantities. In video games, this would likely be things like cosmetics such as weapon skins, operator skins, or really anything a game decides to tokenize, meaning you could potentially buy or earn a really cool limited time cosmetic, and instead of being tied to only your account in that specific game, in theory you could sell or trade it for other cosmetics and will also have ownership of the cosmetic outside of the game in your Fairway wallet. If this is starting to go a little bit above your head, don't worry, we're going to go over the pros and cons of NFTs in video games in just a bit. With this new partnership and NFT addition to the game, there's probably quite a bit of work to be done to get this implemented into Shatterline, and that's probably why they're going to be shutting down the servers for the game to get to work on preparing it for what they're calling the full launch of the game later this year. Now, the way this will work in Shatterline is you will own or hold your NFTs in your Fairway wallet and have access to them in the game via the integration they have planned. I think the question is what types of items will be NFTs in the game, or at least that was my first thought, and it looks like it's starting off in a very strange way. Fairway has acquired the rights to something called HVMTL, or what I assume is supposed to be heavy metal, which is a mech game where you have to take care of the mechs like a companion. I told you, it's weird. But it doesn't stop there. The way these mechs will be implemented into Shatterline is that they would become your support companion in the PVE extraction mode, playing alongside you, helping you to take out enemies and complete objectives. At this time, they've stated that these will be completely optional, as well as only available in the extraction mode. So if you're a fan of the core multiplayer game mode like myself, it looks like this mech situation won't really affect it. As it stands now, these support mechs will not be created or minted, to use the proper NFT term, in Shatterline itself, but rather already exist in the marketplace. I believe there's 30,000 mechs that you can already buy. I'm not sure what the plan is here, if you're going to be able to earn them in-game or if it's something you'll have to purchase outside of the game to be able to access. Now, the rabbit hole gets a little deeper, so stick with me. It looks like they also plan to have earnable NFTs separate from these mechs. The example that was given is that they want pro Shatterline players, if that's even a thing in the future, to have an option of a player card in the form of an NFT that allows fans to be able to buy and trade pro player cards just like any other sport. Which, if you think about it, is actually a really cool concept, but for this to work, Shatterline is going to really have to do some work on building up and supporting a massive player base. Otherwise, there's a pretty big risk of this game becoming some obscure Reddit topic with very few players, making this entire overhaul completely pointless. There's been a pretty heavy backlash to almost all of the games that have implemented this type of NFT monetization system, so I'm not entirely sure what the thought was here. Maybe they're ahead of the curve and this will become something that will be adopted in many games in the near future. I do think there's some really cool possibilities that could be done with the blockchain technology. It just comes down to whether or not you trust people behind the game to manage it properly. So what are some of the benefits? Well, for one, it would allow players to have ownership of their items outside of just one game. So in the future, if a remaster ever comes or another publisher decides to purchase the IP, they could very easily implement those cosmetics into the next game. As games become more and more connected, you also have a really cool possibility that something you earn in one game could become usable in many other games connected to the same network. So when you earn a camo or weapon in one game, you could have access to it in multiple games. For a thought experiment, let's just imagine a game like Call of Duty implemented something like this years ago. Wouldn't it be great to boot up the newest Call of Duty and have access to the mastery camos you unlocked in the game 4 years ago? There's just something priceless about being able to show off something you've earned as a veteran of the franchise, something you can't buy with money. We all know there's a difference between somebody that you see with an earnable cosmetic like the mastery camo versus somebody that you know just spent 30 bucks on the game. The last example I'll give is that this could also create a whole marketplace for players to buy, sell, and trade their NFTs. CSGO already does this really well without needing to use blockchain, but it's a good example of what's possible. I've seen cosmetics in CSGO sell for thousands of dollars. Now move that type of commerce onto a blockchain system and all of a sudden you have a really cool way for players to sell their items and also allow for the development team to take a cut for every sale. Now, I know the danger here is that a greedy publisher will over monetize and ruin this, but it could really be a good way for small indie teams to earn income from all of the work they put into the game. Now, there is one big problem that using NFTs and blockchain technology presents, and that is Steam. As of now, the game is available to download and only play through Steam, but that will be changing in the future. If you don't know, it is completely against Steam's terms of service to use NFTs in any form in a game. So after the servers close down on August 1st, Shatterline will be moving to the Epic Games launcher. For some people, this isn't a big deal, but for others, they won't touch anything outside of Steam. Now, if you're like me and you don't care what platform the game is on, as long as it's a good game that you can play with your friends, then welcome to my channel. If you want to watch another video on first-person shooter games, click here.